To kind of gather around, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Tammy Partsch with Nebraska City Tourism and Commerce, and I'm here today to present a tree to the Central Platte NRD. And this is a thank you for partnering with us this year on our Gift of Trees program. And this whole idea started because we are celebrating 150 years of Arbor Day this year. And Nebraska City wanted to thank the rest of the state for participating in Arbor Day for the last 150 years. And we've been on that very first Arbor Day, which was in 1872, 1 million trees were planted across the entire state. And if you think that there are less than 2 million people in the state today, that's kind of a big deal. So we wanted to say thank you for the NRDs, because with the help of the Central Platte NRD and other NRDs around the state, we are going to try and plant a tree in every county as a thank you. And so far, we have done 16, if my math is right, counties out of 93. So that's a really good start to the project. So we are giving the Central Platte NRD a Matador maple as a thank you today. And this comes from Grimm's Gardens. Doug Grimm is going to talk a little bit about that. So it's an exciting time to plant a tree. We were out this morning and we were cold and bundled up and had socks and sweaters on, and now it's hot and sunny. So that's Nebraska weather. It's a good day to plant a tree no matter what day it is. So I'm going to give the microphone over to Doug. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to give it to Marcia. And Marcia's going to talk a little bit about what is an NRD and why the NRDs are important.
Thank you. So Central Platte NRD is pleased to partner in this project. We do a lot with trees, and we do a lot with all natural resources in the state. And I want to touch on how the NRDs were formed. So before the NRDs were formed, there were 154 special purpose districts, and they were tasked with trying to manage water and soil resources, but they really did not have the authority or the funding that they needed to really be able to make efficient projects work. So in 1972, the Nebraska legislature set up the 23 natural resources districts, gave us 12 responsibilities, and one of them is tree planting. I wanted to read a proclamation that Governor Ricketts proclaimed for the NRDs in July of 2022, this year, to honor our 50th anniversary, because it does tell about the natural resources successes that the NRDs have had. So I'm going to not read the entire thing, but just wanted to give you some touch on some of the important things that the NRDs have done since we were developed in 1972. So the NRDs play a critical role in the conservation of natural resources locally, statewide, and nationally. The NRDs protect water, our most precious natural resource, by finding a balance between competing uses. This work helps to sustain our natural resources for future generations. And Nebraska's groundwater resources are at pre-development levels, thanks to local management and controls implemented by the NRDs. We work with landowners and partner organizations to minimize flood damage by protecting people and property with watershed projects such as dams, levees, dikes, and drainage ditches. Nebraska's NRDs have built more than 700 flood control structures since we were formed in 1972. The NRDs have developed multi-use projects providing public access to lakes, trails, and wetland areas. And we are especially proud of planting more than 100 million trees, conservation trees, since 1972. We plant these with windbreak structures and urban forestry programs through our conservation tree program. Central Platte NRD normally sells between 30 to 35 different types of shrubs, deciduous trees, and conifers. And we purchase those from Halsey, Nebraska, so they are native to our state. The NRDs are also instrumental in assisting landowners with improving grazing lands and pastures. Here in the Central Platte NRD, we have a prescribed fire program that helps rejuvenate grasslands and helps control eastern red cedar volunteer trees. Nebraska's NRDs organize projects and programs to educate both youth and adults about conservation and natural resources, and have been invaluable in managing, conserving, and sustaining the state's natural resources for future generations. One thing that's unique about this, about the NRD system in Nebraska, is it's the only state that has more than one natural resources district. Every other state has one management organization that has to implement and improve on their natural resources without the local ability that we have through the NRD system. So Pete Ricketts proclaimed the week of July 11th through the 15th as Natural Resources District Week, and he urged all citizens to take due note of this observance. And so again, we're very pleased to partner with this program to help promote tree planting and tree conservation in Nebraska. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Doug, and he's going to give you lots of great information on tree planting.
Okay, I'm Doug Grimm. Grimm's Gardens are a nursery in Nebraska City and in Hiawatha, Kansas. And we're going to plant a tree here today, and I'm going to show you here, hopefully this all works on the video up there, what a tree looks like when it comes in a black pot. This tree had very badly circled and girdled roots in here. It's easy to get out of this pot, but this tree is going to die if we don't fix these roots. So I'm going to show you here what happens when I mean the tree will die. So here is an example of what would happen to those roots that are going around and around. They got to the outside of that black pot and then just kept going around and around. They graft themselves together. There's no roots coming out of the bottom going on down into the soil. This is a very bad situation. Eventually, what will happen there is that tree will, these roots will grow here. This trunk is going to grow here, and it's going to simply choke itself. And the tree's going to die. So we don't want that to happen. When we plant our trees, we want them to survive. So number one, if you buy a tree in a black pot, make sure you look for these circled and girdled roots. There are different ways to do this. If you don't have access to a saw, which we're going to use in a bit, you can use about anything you have. A pair of pliers, most anything will work if it's not too bad. This is quite bad. So I'll show you here. You got to tear this apart. You got to really get with it. That's kind of hard to do, but you can get it done. It has to be done, or that is what's going to happen. An easier way to do this is, and for you kids, this might not be something you want to do yourself. You might want to get grandpa or grandma or dad or mom to come out and help you. I've started this already, and we're going to cut this off with a saw. Okay, so there I just took that bottom group of all these roots here that would just sat there and stay flat, almost form a board, which we're not trying to make lumber at this point, but that's about what would happen. So we just got rid of that. That took care of all the circled roots down here around the bottom. And now we're going to do it up here on the sides. We're just going to, if I had a big long blade here, which I don't, which is okay, we're going to make this smaller one work. So we're going to cut more than 4 times. We're going to keep cutting until we get rid of all this. So. It's kind of like scalping somebody. Okay, so we got a couple of sides done here. We got maybe 2 more of those to do and we'll be done. And we will have solved the problem. This will reestablish itself in maybe 2 to 3 months. By springtime, it's going to be all healed up, and this tree is going to be ready to grow like it was if it was grown in a grow trapper, a root trapper, a grow type bag. There's numerous kinds on the market. The black pot's kind of the standard of the industry from years ago. It's ancient. It needs to be done away with, but that's very difficult. It takes a long time to change things like that. One more time and we'll have her where we want it. Sometimes if you've bought a tree that was sitting on asphalt, black asphalt in a black pot, and the sun was shining on it, it may kill all the roots on one side. That's not necessarily good for the tree, but it's better than leaving the roots totally alive and circled all the way around. So you may find a tree sometime that, well, it's only got roots on half the pot. Well, that's what happened. The sun got so intense it can get up to 140 degrees inside that black pot on the south and west side. Okay, so we got that all done. I'm very happy with what we have here now. Looks really good. So now a big key is we want to make sure we don't plant this tree too deep. The number one reason trees die in the industry today is because they're planted too deep and then they get overwatered, and this bark up here, which has got to be above the ground and has to be able to dry out. If it's underneath the soil and it stays wet too long, which is more than a couple weeks, stays wet for a couple months at a time, it will slough off and it'll just pop away from the main tree. And inside that area that pops off is what's called the cambium layer. Inside the cambium layer is the xylem and the phloem. That's the same as our veins in our arteries. That's what brings all the fluid up and down from the roots up into the trees. It gives us what happens when we get good fall color. The fall color is from photosynthesis that covered all that color up. That color was there all the time when the tree was green, but now in the fall of the year it'll turn colors for us. So we're going to put a little fertilizer in the bottom of this, and this may impede the good fall color for a year or two. The faster the tree grows on a tree that has good potential like this does, the less color you're going to get for a few years until this fertilizer begins to balance back out. So it's kind of a sacrifice we make to get the tree established quickly. Okay, so Tammy's helping here, and you can see what she's done here by laying this across here. Let me put this on the front side maybe. So we've planted our tree a tad bit higher than what the ground is here. This is very good. They've just told me, I think this is an irrigated lawn. You can probably all see that. It's nice and lush and green and beautiful. It's also a fairly wet site. This tree can handle a fairly wet site if it's not too deep. If it's too deep, it's going to predispose that tree to die. So it's very important that we keep this tree up in the air. I'm very happy with the way it looks, so I think we'll go ahead and just dump that whole wheelbarrow in here. Can you get it there? Yep. Dump her, if you can. Back it up, yeah. There we go. Let me finish raking it out. We don't want to bump the tree. All right, we got some more? Good deal. I have excellent help here doing this. That makes life much easier. So now I'm going to finish my big handful I talk about planting fertilizer and stir it in just a little bit all around the tree. So now I've got some underneath, and now I've got some around the side. You can dump most all of that, because we'll make a little berm. That's probably good enough. Thank you. And they're getting some mulch out ready for me. So some very important things. different stations around the country to research and do specialty things on various topics on how to grow good trees and fast and what works the best. Kansas State University down at their Wichita station at Havensville, Kansas, has done an enormous amount of research on keeping the grass away from the tree. About 3 feet will give you a 75% improvement in rate of growth if you have no grass within 3 feet. If you go 4 feet, it just about doubles how fast that tree will grow. Obviously, we want these trees to grow pretty fast. Number one, it's going to give us the shade we're after. My little motto is, life is a shade better under a tree. And I really believe that. Besides, I do my best work on my knees down here, and I like being underneath the tree when I'm on my knees. So, we're fairly moist, so I'm not worried about watering right away. We're really in very good shape. Yeah, you can bring that water down, and we're going to put a stake in here and show everybody how we got to tie this tree somewhere. We got to stabilize it. We're not quite straight. We're going to give this tree just a little bit of help here. So what he just did there was outstanding. He put the water to the bottom of the hole. Soil that has enough clay in it, if we just watered this tree, this is pretty loamy, sandy loam, but if we had a lot more clay and we just watered around the top, that water may never get down underneath that tree. But because he stuck the hose down to the bottom of the tree, we're going to water from the bottom up. Absolutely the best way there is to water a tree. It's easiest to do it, of course, when the soil is loose around it and you got room to do that. So we're going to try to make sure we're straight here, or at least reasonably straight. The tree will straighten itself as time goes on. As tree rings, and you've probably all counted tree rings, so on this side of the tree they're going to grow faster than they do on this side of the tree. That's how the tree will straighten itself. It's an amazing thing. Down here, the tree is going to grow a little faster on this side and a little slower on that side to just generally straighten itself. The wind is also going to help push it to the northeast, or at least the north, and it's a very valuable thing to do. So we got some good moisture here coming, which I like to see. So we're going to stick a stake in the ground here if we can. And by doing this, all we're trying to do is hold the root ball still in the ground until the roots get in the soil. And I want that a little further than that. It's just getting a little hard, so I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I don't like doing this because it can ruin my posts. Utilities here? Okay. It's not going anywhere. It's something really hard. But I think I'm in far enough. I think we're okay. So we're going to go around this tree here a couple of times with our tie and bring it over here and tie it onto the stake. And that should be all this tree needs to hold it for about a year. A year is going to be long enough to get this tree established. A little more dirt here. It's settled there very nicely, which is a good thing. Okay. So you can shut the water off for a second. I think we've done what we're going to do with settling it. We'll water the mulch in here in a bit. Okay. Yeah, let's dump those on.
While you're doing that, Doug, I'm going to put the microphone back real quick.
You do that.
Excuse me. All right. Mr. Vogt, can you come over here real quick, please? So, this is Lyndon Vogt, and I want to give you this plaque, or it's a brick, I suppose, to the Central Platte NRD. Thank you guys so much for your 50 years of service to Nebraska and for your continued work with the Central Platte NRD. And on behalf of Nebraska City Tourism and Commerce and the Friends of Arbor Lodge Foundation and all the citizens of Central Nebraska in particular, thank you so much for all of your work and the work of everybody here at the Central Platte NRD.
Well, we certainly appreciate you guys taking the effort to try to plant the trees in 93 counties. That's quite an undertaking, and we're very happy we could be a part to help you in a small portion of that. But thank you very much for the brick plaque, and we will place it in an appropriate place. So thank you very much.
It can go right here if you want, or it can go inside the office. Whatever you want to do with that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now Doug is putting all the mulch, and he's going to make. He first put it in like a volcano where it all comes up toward the tree trunk, but he's fixing it now, and he's making it look like a donut. And donuts are way better than volcanoes. Everybody knows that. So this is so that you don't have all of the moisture trapped right up against the trunk of the tree. So when you do the mulch, which is really good for a tree, you just want to make sure that you hollow out a big part of it in the center. And then the mulch will keep the moisture in, and so that the roots can grow. Doug, is there anything else we need to say about this before we finish with that?
I just point out here on this tree, branch angle is very, very important. So for you kids, whatever age you are, before you started school, you were maybe this tall and your neck was on top of your shoulders and your head was on top of your neck and your arms and everything. You all grew up together at the same rate of speed, the same rate of growth. So 5-10 years from now, when you kids are getting ready to graduate, where do you think these limbs are going to be? How high are they going to be? Are they going to be way up here in the air? This tree will probably be twice that big, maybe 3 times that big. No, they won't be. The tree only grows from the ends out, or from the top up. These here will be the same height forever. They will not change their position on the tree. The tree does not grow like you and I do. So in time, these are going to need to be trimmed off. But the longer we leave them there, the faster this tree grows its caliper down low. So we want to endure that as long as we can, leaving the tree limbs low as long as possible. It's good for the tree. Deer control and rabbit control is a big problem no matter where I plant trees at. I've done it in many, many states, and we have found the best solution for that is Irish Spring soap. So you kids can all go home and tell Mom I got a better use for my soap in the shower than making me get this stuff in my eyes. So anyhow, enjoy life and enjoy the shade of the trees.
All right. Marcia, anything else? All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. And we'll keep watching us, and we'll see how many more trees we can get by the end of the year. All right.